How are you? Welcome to Critical Moves of Telesur. The pandemic and unemployment, they are directly proportionate. How does the impact go on the COVID-19 on the laboral work? What are going to be the reactions of the world? According to the World Work Organization, what are the outcomes? This is what we're going to be analyzing today. Let's begin. Let's begin by listening to statements of high authorities of the World Work Organization.
Lo que hemos hecho es estimar la reducción en la cantidad de horas laborables en el mundo. La reducción llegará al 6,7% durante los próximos 3 meses, el segundo trimestre del año, y quizás lo más sorprendente es que dicha reducción se traduce en la pérdida de 195 millones de equivalentes de trabajo a tiempo completo en el mundo durante ese periodo. El mundo del trabajo está sufriendo un impacto extraordinario debido a los efectos de la pandemia, las medidas
of the pandemonium and the measures that have been necessary. There are 4 sectors that have been most hit: food, housing, small retail, and all of the sales, administration, and all type of services, along with all of the manufacturing companies. We need all of the cooperation of many countries to have measures to help the fiscal world. This is essential. The leaders of the G20 have spoken of this, but we also need specific interventions of the countries to support the companies. We need to ensure that they're going to be viable in any circumstances, that they will be able to overcome this struggle and this crisis, and they are able to support their workers and keep the relationship. Currently, the unemployment on a worldwide scale is 13.6%, which means that it is affecting to almost 46 million young people in the world. But there are workers that are not able to work, or they just don't look for jobs. This is another important number. So if we add up everything, it will be like 80 million young people without a job. If this crisis has to do with the COVID, will continue in the upcoming months, we will confront awful consequences, especially for the young people in terms of work relationships. There is another one that has to do with health. Many countries have a deficit in this area, and we will, if we're able to be creative, there are many job openings in that sector. So now is the time to invest in the health sector and give opportunities to the young people. What do the authorities say? Let's listen to what they say. We have to go back to work. Our people want to work. Our people want to go back to their jobs. They have to go back to their jobs. I hear it loud and clear on behalf of everybody. This is a job that has struggled to become what it is now. We have to see what happens.
These days,
I am applying for jobs. I wake up every morning and I check the internet. I verify the unemployment status to see if I classify as unemployed. I help my wife. I help teaching some kids at home. And I have awful many ads to do other jobs like gardening and other things. I'm afraid that the unemployment might go to mid-May or June, July, and even August. I was fired 2 days ago, and my letter of firing, it says that it was due to the pandemonium. Many of the restaurants with which we worked started to close. Many of the storages also closed. Active in this decree is the special plan to pay the role to the small and medium companies of the country through the system of Patria for a time of 6 months. Likewise, in this decree, it is established that there is the suppression on a national-wide of rent for housing and commerce for 6 months. As you can see, on one hand, it is to fire people, and on the other hand, there is protection to the workers. Let's see more details. We do it with Pablo Araque from Santiago de Chile. Hello. Chile is one of the most neoliberal countries of the region, and in this pandemonium of COVID-19, we have seen the worst face of this neoliberalism, where the Chilean people have had to find any way possible to find solutions, because the government has oriented their solutions to reopen the economy. For example, with soft loans, with even 0% interest for small and medium companies. This has been explained by the authorities. Nevertheless, there is distrust right now in the institutions, and this makes that many of these small companies don't want to continue working. In Chile, there's a workforce of almost 9 million people and 11 million who are already on loans and with a scarce capacity of paying those loans. It is important to recall that there is a anatocism, which is the interest on top of interest, which makes a loan to be impossible to pay. And this makes many people go bankrupt. This reality in the midst of the pandemic has shown that the solutions on a global level and collective level should be in equal measures, and that they're necessary. Now, in several countries, many have changed their policies, and because they've understood that the strength of the government is what helps people to be able to undergo these crises. Thank you, Paola, for your reflections from Chile. Now let's go to see what the recent report of the Organization of Labor International says. The International Labour Organization has said that there is a catastrophic effect on the world's population. Recent reports of 19 of April, the coronavirus will make 6.7% of the work hours disappear in the second semester of the year, which is 125 million full-time workers. In the Middle East, it is foreseen that there's going to be a big reduction of workers. In Europe, there will be 7.8% of reduction, while Asia-Pacific is the most affected with 7.2%. This is an equivalent of 125 million workers. It is also said that there are going to be great losses in many incomes. For example, in the medium income, at least 100 million full-time jobs. This goes beyond the 2008 crisis. The most vulnerable sectors are housing, restoration, manufacture, production, and administration. According to the International Labour Organization, during 2020, it will depend on the sanitary situation in the upcoming future, as well as the political measures that will be adopted in this context. It is said that at least 125 million will be unemployed, but this number may go up significantly by the end of the year. According to the International Labour Organization, 1 in 5 people, this is 85% of the workforce, will be affected due to the total or partial closing of their companies. The report also says that 125 million work in the high-risk sectors, and that there can be high number of firings and diminishing of work hours and salaries. On the other hand, the workers in this sector is 43% in America and less in Africa. This is due to the high numbers of informal jobs and to the lack of social security of the mass of people. In this situation, it is suggested that there be policies on a world national level that support the workers, stimulate the economy, protect the workers in their jobs, and to use social dialogue among government, employers, and employees to find solutions. But to complete this context, let's see a map of the International Labour Organization. It's known as ILO. What is it about? What do they work on? Let's see.
OIT, Ente Regulador
ILO.
de Políticas Laborales.
This is the labor organization. This is the specialized agency of United Nations in charge of everything that has to do with work in the world. It is the only trilateral organization that gathers government, employers, and employees with the objective of establishing labor laws, make policies, and work to have dignified work. It was created in 1919 based on a peace that would be achieved only when it's fundamented in dignified jobs. Between 1919 and 1926, the organism issued many decrees and suggestions. In 1926, there was a mechanism of control that is still ongoing, by which every country must present annually a report on the application of the international laws. In 1944, when the Second World War was still ongoing, there was a declaration of Philadelphia that was annexed to the ILO Constitution. This is how the first objectives were established. It is important to say that this was the first agency of United Nations in 1946. The international organization that seeks the labor rights to foment opportunities of dignified work, improve social security, and to speak and try to find solutions to topics that are around the workers. It has an annual structure that is the International Conference of Jobs that meets once a year, and it has the supreme organization that is the Council of Administration that works on the budget and the policies and decisions. Likewise, it has the right to designate the authorities. And while seeing our digital websites, we see this news. This is brought by BBC. The country with the lowest unemployment rate, and this is why it's a paradox. The unemployment is just as low as Switzerland, and it's even better than the US and Finland. From an economic standpoint, you could see that it's a paradise, except for one detail. Guatemala is not Switzerland. This country has the record with the lowest unemployment in Latin America, with 2.5. Unfortunately, the reasons are very far from the ones that happen in the developed countries. Basically, it's because since there's such low level of formal jobs, people don't even seek it. And when they don't seek it, the numbers go down. This is a paradox. And this gives you an evidence how the numbers might mislead the optics. Let me suggest an important article that was published April 25th that is called COVID-19 or the Horizon of a Project of Society. This was written by Augusto Marquez in Medium.com. And in the last centuries, we have been witness to the project of social engineering most ambitious of our history, the invention of the economy that has no limits on the work, on the nature of money and merchandise that could only benefit if there is any intervention of society, it would be an obstacle for its development. This leads to an explosion of accumulation, and this causes many social disruptions. And what makes it converting everything to merchandise makes people have any value for anything and lose their horizon. With the COVID-19, there has been an evidence of the result of this catastrophe. For example, if you believe that the health is just a merchandise, the objective is not to save lives, but only to make money off of it. So, the only objective would be to make health as a private commodity. So the countries that are most affected have shown that their deficiencies of helping poor people when they need to have health insurance, and they can't. What COVID-19 has shown is that there is a crisis in the capital system. For the first time in the history, there's a paralyzation of production. There's an upcoming recession, and there is a reinvention of the global finances without a great-scale war. In this state of panic, the society shows that to save their project, it is necessary to have reduction of workers and a transition to new areas that give more income, while millions of people trying to find refuge in their governments, not to be thrown away as unnecessary workers. This is many multimillionaires just play with the casino with our misfortune. Once again, deciding the function of the schemes that is most profitable, and will decide who is in and who is out. Because due to bad luck, this is what the market has decided. Let's establish our first pause, but don't forget that you can participate with us through our critical moves question of the day. Is unemployment during and after the COVID a phenomenon that is unavoidable, or is just a myth that will help a couple against others? Give us your opinion. We'll be right back. We're speaking of unemployment today. Let's see how the numbers are going in the world just before the COVID-19, according to the numbers of the International Labor Organization. According to the ILO, the rate of unemployment was 5.4% in 2019 in the world. This is 187 million people unemployed. To this, we must add that 165 million people are subemployed and 119 million have stopped looking for jobs. These workplaces are characterized by low wages and lack of social security and lack of labor rights. According to the ILO, in the last decade, 1 of each 5 workers of the world lives in extreme or diminished poverty. Between 2010 and 2019, the regions that have been more affected were Asia, that added 45% of people looking for jobs, after Sub-Saharan Africa and Europe. By the end of 2019, Latin America had 1% of the increase of unemployment, with over 1 million people unemployed, without considering that there is an increase of numbers of workers that are self-employed. Between 2004 and 2016, there was a diminution of the increase going to labor of 54 to 51%. The number shows that the distribution of the income is very unequal. The International Labor Organization says that the restriction of commerce might have great impact on labor. According to this organism, the lack of good conditions for workers have taken to dismotivation. Let's begin our analysis. We have both guests from Spain. Sergio is an anthropologist. He's a member of the Strategic Center. And Marco is a geopolitical expert and international relationships. I greet you both. And let me speak first with Sergio. Sergio, we have put on the table this question. Is the pandemic directly proportionate to the unemployment? Well, let's just look at the numbers. According to the ILO, we see that there are 200 million people unemployed as the impact of this pandemic, and it's evident that the confinement measures and the restrictions to mobility will affect many work sectors. This can be seen also in the informal sector, which traditionally has more difficulty to try to save and to find loans because they're not in the scope of the loaning sectors. And we see that their capacity to reach their clients has been diminished due to the confinement. Just some days ago, we saw that in Colombia and Peru, that 40 to 45% of the people had lost the income, even all of their income in the last month due to the confinement, due to the COVID-19. This is a disaster, a worldwide disaster. Thank you, Sergio. Let's speak to Marco. What is your opinion on this? Is there a direct correlation between unemployment and this pandemic? If this is so, what are the countries that will be more prone to this collapse? Could you please repeat the question? Is there a direct relationship? Are they correlated, the unemployment and the pandemic, or not? Do you think that we can see this more in some countries more than in others?
Sí, cómo no, te escuchamos.
I believe that we're in a unique situation. And if we analyze, we should analyze if we're reaching the end of capitalism. We are speaking of a depression like the 1929 loss of jobs. And I think that capitalism has reached an end, and it has gone to where it has to go. And it has proven that the evolution of this system will lead to death and destruction. And it's a risk for the human species and nature itself. We're at a historical point, and which is very interesting, and which is reflected in the loss of jobs, just like the capitalists themselves are doing. They are using socialist measures, and I even go as far as saying that after this collapse of the capitalist system, thanks to China and Russia, this collapse will not be a total destruction. It will just be a decrease that will sort of soft, and we will see how it evolves. And of course, there is unemployment, but the measure to counteract this disaster will have to be more socialism, a stronger state, and more equality. So if we infer on Marco's answers, we can see that unemployment is a consequence of the capitalist system, not so much of the socialism that is based on other policies through which the worker is protected. And in circumstances like the ones we have currently, the worker does not necessarily lose their job. On the contrary, they're protected by the government. Is this so? I'm sorry, I have a very bad connection. Could you please repeat the first part? Of course. Our audience is very patient. As I said, if we infer of what you have just said, unemployment is not directly proportionate to the pandemonium, but to capitalism. Totally. This is true, because it is a consequence of capitalism. I live in Spain, and I live in a capitalist country, and capitalism, since the fall of the Soviet Union, we see that there's a constant destruction of health services, of public education. People have less money, and the unemployment rates are raising, because the capitalists don't seek to solve the problems. We have seen it. We have seen Mr. Macron, the leader of France, stealing masks to neighbor countries. We've seen Germany and France blocking the arrival of respirators to Italy, and many people have died. We are seeing how countries are thinking how Mr. Trump, with a smile on his face, says that it's only a cold. And while he's seeing that 100,000 people or 200,000 people will die. And of course, there are Latin Americans, Black, any type of minority. So we're seeing what capitalism is. Capitalism will not try welfare. They have only done it when it's in their interest. Let's see the socialist countries that for good or for bad, there was not so much jobs. Maybe we did not have name brand clothes, but there is welfare. What is not normal is that every family has 2 or 3 cars or 2 or 3 summer homes, like what happens in Europe. And this is when this happens, you have exploitation, when you have very poor and very rich. So, the unemployment, it is a cause of the capitalism. And I would like to specify that I may be wrong, because everybody is a human and everybody can make mistakes, but I think that we are seeing the death of capitalism, because what it has shown to the world with everything that is happening is of stealing masks of Macron on behalf of Macron, and seeing how old people die in Italy and even in Spain, and that there is no cooperation on a world level on behalf of Europe or United States to protect the South American countries, the African countries. This is a total collapse of what can be said when a market can have some capitalist values, but if a state take these capitalist values, then this path will take to destruction and barbarism. And we are seeing it nowadays, unfortunately, with everything that's happening. This is a lesson that shows that capitalism is not the future, and that unfortunately the next revolution the next Karl Marx and the next countries will be that push forward are Asian, African, South American. You can forget Europe. And you can forget North America too. And our societies have no future, and I don't think they're going to see any future. I think the change will come from elsewhere, of those who are so-called of the third world. Thank you, Marco. Let's go back to Sergio. So now we're putting to the test all of the capacity of the state confronted with this unemployment in times of pandemony. Well, what this pandemic has proven is that governments were not ready to be able to take control of this phenomenon. The case of Europe is a perfect example of how the budget of Europe has been unable to coordinate this emergency, and that there is no minimum agreement on frontiers, on borders, to share the necessary resources, and the absence of the answer of several organisms. And with this, the people are trying to find some responses to what they know, which is the government. And to see the government with the role of protection that they should have. However, the uncertainty to the demand that they are posing, and now people are putting in the second line the other type of demands, like the ones of environmental protection, because right now it's much more important to seek security for themselves. For example, now we are putting aside the right to privacy so we can know who is infected and not. And so we'll see how this evolves. And if this goes to the coercive part, which is what characterizes its nature. And we see that the government has the monopoly on all of the powers, and now we will see a more socialist aspect of some countries, and how they're going to have to take over essential areas to avoid the poverty and the destruction of all social security to come about. Sergio, I would like to ask a final question. Confronted with these numbers of the International Labour Organization, is there nothing to be done? Well, of course there is. In fact, there are examples how several countries are trying to take different measures to avoid this debacle. One of the most important ones that is being discussed is the minimum wage, or an universal wage, however you want to call it. But this is at least a minimum wage that all of the citizens, just for being human beings, would have the right to. And with the support, they would be able to go through this unemployment. And well, nobody is very clear on what to do until we find a balance in the workplaces, which are going to be very hard during the upcoming years. It's not only during the pandemic, but it's going to going to be long. We all know that, for example, Spain, that has a great influx of tourists, they're not going to be able to employ all of their people back because tourism is going to come to a halt in the upcoming years. Likewise, many of the countries in the Caribbean that they survive by tourism, and they're not going to be able to set hand on them, and they're going to have to find alternatives to go by. Maybe this minimum wage. Meanwhile, it is necessary to identify, to distribute jobs, and be this in the cultural aspect or in the healthcare aspect. It's important to see that there are countries who have done this before, and what they've done is set all their imagination and resources to find a way to redistribute. For example, Cuba, they are an example of trying to find these solutions. They have a strong cultural and health sector. Thank you very much, Sergio and Marco, for your time to Critical Moves. See you soon. Let's go to our second pause. Don't forget that you can participate with us through our Critical Moves question. Let's see it on our screen. Is the unemployment during and after the pandemic a phenomenon that is unstoppable or unavoidable? Or is this a myth that will go in favor of a few? Give us your opinion. We'll be right back. According to the International Labor Organization, the crisis that is posed by the COVID-19 affects almost 2 billion people, workers, almost 85% of the workforce in the world. Let's go over the numbers of the unemployment in this context.
El director general de la Organización Internacional del Trabajo, Guy Wright,
says that it's not only a sanitary crisis, but also a very important economic and employment sector, which has a great impact. Imposing emergent policies include more social security protection, more protection to the employees, to keep the workplaces, and help with financial aid. On their behalf, Alicia Bárcena, who is the director of the Latin American Economic Commission, says that there is going to be a big impact in the region. And to mitigate this catastrophe, countries like Mexico, Argentina, and Venezuela are taking actions to protect their workers, stimulate the local economies, and maintain the workplaces as well as the income. The reduction of the time of the working time and vacation and subsidies have been adopted, so the isolation is still fundamental to the expansion of the COVID. Meanwhile, Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil is confronting their collapse of their health sector with the increasing number of infections. This is due because at the beginning they minimized the protection to their countries, and they did not want to stop the economic movement. However, with the upcoming days, they have been forced to stop all of the economic movement. It has brought two phenomenons. The first, it's workers that are obligated by their employers not to stop going. And the second one has to do with the informal workers, which have been forced of not stopping their activities, even at the cost of getting sick, because they receive no protection on behalf of the states. This just shows that the biggest values of the neoliberal countries is the production. This goes beyond the protection to the workers, even though this sanitary crisis. And for the second part of the analysis, I have invited Carlos Vidalba. He's a journalist and a psychoanalyst. Hello, Carlos. He joins us from Argentina. Hi, Ray. I am here from Argentina, and we are following everything you are doing back at and Caracas.
Gracias, Carlos. Y me viene como anillo al dedo porque en este momento del
Thank you,
análisis,
Carlos, because
además de
now
lo
in our
geopolítico que
analysis,
implica este
beyond
asunto del desempleo, quiero
the analysis of
dedicar
the
un par de
economic
minutos
aspect, I
al
would like to
análisis desde
see
lo psicosocial,
the
o sea, cómo impacta
psychosocial
en el
aspect of the
imaginario
impact
social, en la
on
psiquis de
society.
la clase trabajadora, el hecho de que pandemia
The fact that
es
this
directamente
pandemony
proporcional
is
al
directly
desempleo.
proportionate to unemployment.
Bueno, ahí lo has definido con
Well,
claridad y
you
casi
have defined it
lo
very
psicosocial
clearly.
queda disminuido a su
And
mínima
what we
expresión,
say is,
porque
what we can
principal
see is that the
problema
stability is
que se
diminished to
empieza a
the
generar con
lowest
mucha
level.
rapidez en este momento en el mundo entero y
And
por supuesto en Latinoamérica y
the
el
world
Caribe
itself
con 140
is
millones de personas
faced with
trabajando en
140
condiciones de informalidad.
million people that are
Prácticamente
worked,
todo el espacio
worked as in informal
que uno
sectors.
tiene está dedicado a
Practically
eso, ¿no?
all
La
of the
gente
sectors
está
that we
muy
have is
preocupada por esta
dedicated to
temática.
that.
Y ahí depende, como
And
lo explicaste recién,
as you
en
just
tu
explained,
introducción, de las respuestas que se van realizando.
it all depends on all of
Esos dos
the
minutos que querés
answers
que nos dediquemos a lo
that the government
psicosocial,
is going to give to
ahí
these
tiene muchos
people.
componentes. Uno es este,
One,
muchas de las poblaciones que
most of the
están siendo
population
afectadas,
that is being
son muy
affected
distintas las inserciones sociales, las situaciones en los países,
are all
las
different
situaciones dentro
depending
de las mismas
on the
ciudades y
country,
dentro de los
of the
barrios. Te voy
city,
a dar un
even the
ejemplo.
neighborhood, for
Por
example,
ejemplo, aquí en la Argentina,
here in Argentina.
estamos construyendo un fenómeno de aislamiento
We are
comunitario,
seeing
porque hay situaciones
social distancing,
existenciales, vitales, de
and we
vivencia,
do
de
have
vivienda, que
we have
no
some services as
permiten el
sanitation
aislamiento domiciliario.
that
Hay
cannot
situaciones
be
de
isolated.
hacinamiento, etcétera, etcétera. Entonces, la unidad de aislamiento
So
se está ampliando.
these
Estado lo está
isolation
planteando de
measures
esa
are
manera,
being
y sus
increased,
administradores lo están intentando construir en alianza con los movimientos populares que
they're
hay,
trying to
con
build
mucha
this
potencia
isolation with,
en
along
las
with
distintas
society
ciudades
itself,
argentinas, muy especialmente en la capital,
especially
y en el
in
conurbano
the capital
bonaerense,
city,
donde vive
in
una
Buenos
gran
Aires.
cantidad de la población argentina. Hay lugares en este momento, hay
And there are
barrios
sectors,
donde no hay
neighborhoods,
coronavirus.
where there is no COVID.
Entonces, la intención de
So
la
the
organización
intention
comunitaria es que
of
no
the
entre el
of the
coronavirus.
organization, the
Entonces,
community, is
el
not to
aislamiento
allow the
comunitario, a
entrance
diferencia
of
de lo
the
que puede ser en
virus.
otros lugares, no es para que no salgan los habitantes,
So what
sino
people
para
are
que no
doing is not
entren
avoiding people to
otras
leave their
personas que
houses.
pueden
On the
contaminar
contrary,
al
but what they're
barrio. Ahora,
doing is not to let
simultáneamente con eso,
people to come
es una
into their
respuesta
neighborhoods.
sociosanitaria,
So that
tenés
is
una problemática
a social
laboral,
sanitary
los
condition that
trabajadores,
we can see here.
informales, que son
And
en América Latina,
in this
la
case, the
población que
informal
trabaja
workers,
de manera
which in Latin
informal es
America is
aproximadamente
the largest one,
140 millones.
like
Si vos no salís a
140 million
trabajar,
people,
si vos no salís a buscar
and
cartón para ser
of course, they are
reciclado,
allowed
no
to
podés cambiar
they are
las
allowed to
monedas que
go out
recibís
there
por ese
to their
trabajo,
jobs.
ese sueldo que recibís por ese trabajo,
Let's not
por
forget that
los
they
bienes
live on the
básicos
day to day of what
que
they
tenés
sell,
para
of what
alimentar a
they
tu
do,
familia, para
and they
alimentarte
need
vos
that
mismo.
money
Es
to
un
feed their
problema
family.
serio. Tenés otros temas
And you have
psicosociales.
other
Por
topics.
ejemplo,
For
el
example,
tema de la visualización
this one
o
of the
invisibilidad
of the
del fenómeno.
invisibilization, this phenomenon.
Hay un personaje de historieta
There is
argentino que es el Eternauta, que es muy
This is
famoso
there's
porque el Eternauta
there's
fue
an image of
considerado
an
una de las
internauta,
máximas
internaut,
historietas a nivel
that he would.
mundial.
This is a story, a
Fue
fairy tale
guionado, escrito
of
por
the
Héctor
Argentina
Germán Westergel, que es uno de
by
los
Mr.
decenas de
Westerheld,
miles de desaparecidos
and
que
they
tiene
speak
la
of
Argentina
all of the
producto de la
millions of
última
people
dictadura cívico-militar.
that would
Bueno,
disappear
en la
during the
creación de
last
Eternauta,
dictatorship.
por Westergel,
And this
ubica un
story of
personaje en un
Westerheld
barrio de Gran Buenos Aires,
identifies
donde están
a
jugando a las
person in
cartas,
Buenos
el juego
Aires who is
típico de la
playing
Argentina,
cards, which is
que
very
es el
typical,
truco. Están
which
jugando
is
una
truco,
partida de truco, el
and
dueño
they're
de casa,
playing
Juan
truco.
Salvo, y tres amigos más del barrio, que
And
son
it's the
todos
owner of the
clase
house
media o
and three
trabajadores,
other
que se reúnen
neighbors.
ahí.
They're all middle
Están
class.
jugando a las cartas,
They're
se
playing
escucha un
cards.
ruido, un choque,
There's
miran
a
por la
lot of
ventana, hacía frío, o sea, las ventanas
there's a
estaban
big
cerradas,
bang. They see out
ven
the
el
window.
choque, y ven
They
algo muy
see the
raro.
crash,
En
and
Buenos Aires
it's
prácticamente
very
no nieva
weird.
nunca, puede nevar cada
And
20,
it
25 años, es
was
algo
snowing, and
que
this
acá
is
no,
very
en la
rare
ciudad no
because it
sucede.
happens like every
Ven que hay una
25
nevada
years. But
y
they see
empiezan
that
a
there's
ver
snow,
la poca gente que hay en la calle
and they see that
que se
there's
cae,
so
queda
many
muerta.
people. There's so
El
many
dueño de
people
casa,
on the
Juan,
streets,
rápidamente asocia
and
la
they see that
nieve,
there's
los
nobody
copos de
outside,
nieve,
and
con la muerte.
they see that
Y se
people
da
are dead
cuenta
outside. So he
y sale
relates that
corriendo
the
a cerrar las
snow
pocas
has to do
ventanas que todavía
with the
estaban
dead people,
abiertas.
and what he does is
¿Qué
go
quiero
out and
decir con
close the
esto?
windows.
En ese caso,
In this case,
ese factor
this death factor is seen. If you close the window, nothing will happen to you. In the case of the virus, they're not visible. So all throughout the centuries and all of the pandemonies and all of the epidemics, and when they go global, they're pandemonies. Then you have another problem, that they're invisible. Now, for example, in Buenos Aires, today is a day of fall. It's a very nice day. It's like 20 degrees outside. It's sunny. And people can't go out. They can't go to work. And they're respecting social distancing. They can't go to work, but you can't leave your house either. It's a lovely day to go walk, but you can't, because the virus might be there. So, like as the connoisseurs say, the virus is not like a mosquito that looks for you. On the contrary, you find it, and the transmission is very fast. So there are many psychological phenomena that will go on for a lot of time. For example, the informal workers, their main problem is what am I going to do to eat today? How am I going to pay for my children? This is a much more concrete situation. And here comes a concept that I have had all throughout the program. What is the role of the government? The government is that who dictates the quarantine. But if they dictate the quarantine and they don't have a protection measures to all of the formal and informal workers, then this is a problem. Am I right? Yes, we totally agree with your concept. The first answer is the presence all throughout the world of the presence of a government. Here, as in any of the crises, we will be able to overcome depending on how we confront this crisis. We all know that all of the region of the Americas is ruled by the neoliberal thought, and that they dance to the beat of the investments and production. And most of these countries, and also Argentina is in this, in a weakness situation. So speaking of the work, that we can see that the government has not paid attention to labor, and no longer it's a ministry, it's just a secretariat. In most of the American countries, we have a big problem of lack of investment in the health system, lack of vaccines, and in this desert, we have a pandemonium, which is highly contagious. And that's why it moves so fast. And the governments react. And this is where I see it different from what the government is doing. The government has a different vision. They have an ideological conduction where the government is mainly there to find a balance in the inequality of society. This in Argentina began in the decades of the 40s and the 50s, when the first government of General Perón gave the government a fundamental role, which will try to replace all of the lacks of society. Of course, this works with income, and the income of the governments are basically based on the taxes. Of course, the words of Pope Francis of last Sunday help us, and these are for the believers in the church. And this was on Easter Sunday, who says,
concepto que él dio y es difícil de ser superado.
It's hard to overcome by other people who were excluded, the workers, the poor workers, from the benefits of the globalization. And all of the bad things of globalization affects them. But this is a very interesting Pope, because he does only not have the religious concepts. He also gives proposals. And for those that are the most powerful economic groups in the world, he was asking for a world minimum wage, because the poor people on a day-to-day live with no legal guarantee that protects them. So, besides everything, he made a proposal that takes us to the popular economy concept. Of course, we will be speaking of this topic in another program. I would like to thank you very much for all of the concepts for Telesur. And of course, you're invited for the next programs. Thank you, Ray. I hope it was useful. This was Carlos Villalba, an international analyst. And this was a sui generis analysis that he has given us. Let's go to our conclusions. Is it a myth that the influx of the pandemonium will cause unemployment? This is a theory that the capitalism wants to impose in the minds of the working class to take advantage, do whatever they want, and make the workers even richer. But when we go a little bit further of what is not seen, we see that other governments, with no will of making this a political topic, there is a way to help people. Because otherwise, step by step, little by little, we need to help everybody, even if they don't have a minimum wage. How? We must drink in the waters of progress. For now, this is all.